I really want to know one thing very clear right now, James and Joe. Speaking about Masayoshi Son, I know you guys been working with them. You work with the world-class investors. I think you
Yep.
probably have the very, very unique investment philosophy. That's why you've been very successful, What is your difference between other general partners investors? I know you have a strong background. I know the team is awesome with all the investment strategy. Could you tell us a little bit more about your investment philosophy?
Well, our I wouldn't say we have investment philosophy at the beginning, but over
Okay.
time we have evolved a few principles or disciplines, if you will, sort of over time, right? Having learned a lot of lessons from especially our mistakes and failures we have encountered in our investment years of investments. One of which is there's a number of them. One of which is we have decided over time that we are going to focus on very early stage investment, exactly like Joe said. I think Joe pointed out at the very beginning of the conversation. We focus on very early stage of the companies. And part of the reason is because, this is, by the way, very different from what Song-san is doing. Right? Song-san is running a $100 billion investment fund, and he couldn't afford to put $500,000 here, 2 million there. He couldn't afford to do that. But we can. But part of the reason is because I think if you look at Joe and to some extent myself, we were entrepreneurs ourselves, right? We started companies, and for us, helping fellow entrepreneurs and identifying early stage successful entrepreneurs is what we feel passionate about, and what we believe we have some of the unfair competitive advantages compared with some of the other investors, because a lot of investors they have a very strong analytical and investment background versus an entrepreneurial background. So we tend to focus on very early stage companies, and early stage companies, when you bet on them, I think entrepreneur is the most important thing, the quality of entrepreneurs. You have to be extremely determined to succeed, and have a very strong will and believe what you have is the best, and you have the truth of the future, right? But at the same time, you have to be extremely mental flexible. If and when the environment changes around you, you have to be able to adapt. So it's a rare combination. I think, Joe and I have always been talking about it. In Joe, you find a rare combination of these two qualities, because he is extremely determined. In our company's history, we've got multiple times opportunities to exit. One of which is, at one point in time, we could actually have done something with Mark Zuckerberg a long time ago, back in 2008, right? If we had wanted to. But Joe refused, right? Being an entrepreneur in his heart, he is determined to succeed. He is determined the thing is going to have a life on its own, and it's going to be huge, right? But at the same time, if the market really changes, you have to adapt along the way. And that's why Joe is now in the US, and we have a few vibrant, live and kicking SaaS businesses in the company, right? Starting from scratch almost. So I think that same set of qualities we're looking for in the entrepreneurs. We're batting on people that are young, that are extremely energetic as well, because startup companies is a very, very tough deal. You have to have a ton of energies, right? You have to really, your passion has to be contagious.
It's a great comment from James. And then, Joe, as James said, you do have an entrepreneurship. Over the past 30 years, it's a great partnership like this. It's hard to have a great partner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and someone you can trust. I can see the trust and technical expertise and all that. How would you say, how would you advise these youngsters, MZ, I would say, 20-something investors for tech investors or founders? What is your advice?
You mean building a team, right? So I think that the advice is that for founders looking to start companies and trying to find co-founders, I think the key is to work with somebody who has different strengths that you have, right? Number one, right? Number two is that to find somebody or a small group of people that you have to work with before starting that company, knowing each other for a long time, doing school projects, multiple times, back in school, have done some traveling together, being to each other's weddings, all that stuff. That's the relation we had with Together Gems before we actually started working together. So I think those two things exchange essentially very helpful.
Great example. This show's gonna continue because we're gonna have James on our show, the Global Alternative Investment Conference. I'm actually very looking forward to meeting you and in person and host you in Seoul, South Korea, May 29th. Thank you so much, Joe and James, and I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, thank you, Winston.